What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mental Corner Podcast, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk all the things mental health. I'm, of course, your host, Harry Potvin, and today, for our 80th episode, I have the pleasure of being joined by JoJo Marie. JoJo is a Toronto-based author and motivational speaker who was forced to face her demons head-on after experiencing a brain injury that caused her to be bedridden for over 1,460 days. She uses her experience of turning vulnerability into strength to motivate others and to show that the authentic life that you are looking for is actually achievable. JoJo was such a blast to talk to. This episode was so fun to film, and I really want to thank her again for coming on and having this discussion with me. Now, before we get into this fun episode, you all know the drill. If you're listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, give 5 stars if you're on that podcast platform. Share with someone who might want to hear this episode. It's a really great one, and I can't wait for you to listen. I'll talk to y'all very soon. Enjoy number 80. Peace. We are good to go. JoJo, how's it going? It's great to see you.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Harry. This is great.
Of course. So I really want to get into your story because we had a pre-call with all of this, and I read up about you, and I just I love the story. I love your story, and I love the amount of resilience that comes with that story. Where does that all begin? I think that's my first super broad question. Like, where does your journey kind of start?
You know what? Way back when I was 3. Basically, it's my earliest childhood memory is where it starts. And my earliest childhood memory is when my father was killed in a trucking accident when I was 3. And back then in the 60s, early 70s, death wasn't really embraced as something that children should or could naturally go through the process, right? It was more something that you were sheltered from, especially in the Italian background that I was in. Death is like the black hole. So a lot was kept from me. I was told that my father was at work, basically. So this instilled a tremendous fear that I carried, because if my father could go to work and not come home, in turn, my mother could go to work and not come home. So that fear I carried with me throughout my whole childhood, and it affected absolutely every aspect of my life, not just my childhood, but then into my teen years. It affected all kinds of things, especially my learning capabilities, my focus, my concentration. And it affected me into my early 20s when I ended up having an early nervous breakdown before my marriage. The other thing that happened in my teen years is I suffered my first traumatic physical injury. So I had a bicycle accident and I had terrible impact to the jaw, and I had multiple root canals, teeth extractions. I ended up having to get braces. After all of this, I had headaches that were just undescribable, and no one could figure out why. These got worse over time. I began developing anxiety, panic attacks, dizziness, vertigo. That followed through my 20s. In my 30s, I had my son, new mother, all kinds of stresses. I was in a very profoundly dysfunctional marriage, not abusive, but the two of us were emotionally unavailable to one another. So that produced another stress. I had sleeping issues. I had all kinds of neck dysfunction. And the symptoms that I had in my late teens, early 20s started getting exponentially worse. So a little bit of vertigo and dizziness was now major vertigo, dizziness, nausea. Headaches turned into migraines, turned into violent migraines. Lethargy, complete and total exhaustion, sleep deprivation, high level anxiety and stress. And then finally, this kept going, undetected by the doctors, because I kept saying, there's something wrong with me. There is something wrong with my brain. There is something wrong in my body. I knew it Harry. I knew it. And they wouldn't listen because it was like, oh, you're stressed, you have hormone issues, you have anxiety, weather, inner ear virus. I mean, you name it, I heard it. So you go along for years and you start thinking, you know what? I think I'm crazy. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure I'm off my nut because now people are making you believe that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this went on and on and on until one day I was completely bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed at all. And I could not move my body. So people say, you couldn't get out of bed because you were so weak and dizzy. No, it's not because I was weak and dizzy, although I was weak and dizzy. It was because my brain and my body no longer communicated together. So the best way I can describe this is back in the old days, which I don't think we can go back that far with you, but when we have to turn the channel on the TV and we had the UHF channels and it was like a snow screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because the signal wasn't coming through. And that's basically what my brain was like. It was functioning like a snow screen because your vestibular system, which is what they figured out, I had lost a third of my vestibular system. So part of my brain died. So your vestibular system, you take information in through your eyes, ocular. It goes through your vestibular system deep into the inner ear and into the brain. And it basically recalibrates you. So as I'm talking with my hands so much, as I'm talking and I'm moving my hands, the vestibular system is recalibrating and it's balancing me. It's using my equilibrium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, mine wasn't working. So I was taking all this information into my eyes. My brain didn't know what the hell to do with it. It was a hot mess in there. I had no balance. Um, my brain didn't know how to tell my feet to move properly. There was just no communication anymore. So I ended up finally being diagnosed and rehab began. I was in the bed. My book, My Missing Piece, I wrote a book called My Missing Piece, what I learned after 1,460 days in bed. And the 1,460 days are the days that it took for me to rehabilitate and learn to walk again. So I would begin rehab and it would be 30 seconds a day. And after 30 seconds, the brain was fighting so hard against doing it because we have neuroplasticity now, right? So neuroplasticity basically says we can teach uh, a new part of the brain to take on an old task, meaning that the brain is plastic. So I would be doing this, but the brain fights it. The brain doesn't really want to do it. The brain's like, I'm not doing this shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not playing the game. So you have to repeat every minute, by hour, by day, by week, by year, until I was finally able to lift my head, my body. I could, move little bits. And then I finally was able to stand. I was in a walker. My son helped me walk for the first time, take my new first steps like a new fawn just born. But then it was, people say, how is my brain functioning? For me, it was, I had to continually do a running commentary because something natural as picking up a book, my brain didn't know how to do that. I had to actually reach out and say, I'm going to pick up the book, I'm going to grasp the book, I'm going to pull it towards me. And I equate it like this. If you say the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, it's easy, right? Runs off your tongue easily. Try and say it backwards with the letters upside down from the middle. All of a sudden you go, oh, I got to think about this, right? That's how everything was for me. If I wanted to pick up a pen, I had to think about it. So it was really 4 arduous years of being completely and totally bedridden. I didn't move for 2 years at all. I was on my right side. Then finally I could move a little bit to the left, but my feet didn't touch the floor for more than 4 years. And that's where I rebirthed from a life of terrorizing fear and anxiety and illness to a life of incredible happiness, joy, and peace. So I believe that my mission in life is to share what I learned in what I call my hatchery, which I believe my bed was, and show people that there's a different way to live than in fear. And I used 5 words: trust, acceptance, gratitude, commitment, and in the end, liberation. And this is my work, this is my passion and purpose moving forward. So that's the Coles notes of my War and Peace story.
Incredible, incredible. Like, what? I want to go back a little bit. So, what causes like have a third of your brain to die? Like, was there anything that the doctors gave you that was the root cause of that?
You know what, Harry? I kept saying to them, why for 30 years? 30 years I suffered. It wasn't like 6 months. 30 years of it getting exponentially worse. And they said, think of your vestibular system like a vase, like a porcelain vase. So the first impact was a bicycle accident. You get a crack, right? And then I have stress. There's another crack. Then I had a mild concussion, mild concussion. There was another crack. I ended up with something called multiple chemical sensitivity disorder, put another stress on the central nervous system, another crack, a dysfunctional marriage, which caused anxiety and stress. All these different things, sleep deprivation, it affects your central nervous system, all of those things, right? And one day it was just too much. And that it's like I was trying to hold that vase together for so many years, and year after year, it's coming apart a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until finally it's just like, I'm done. Can't do it. And it shatters. So for me, it can happen, in severe head trauma, for sure, for me, it was multiple traumas, both physical and emotional, that finally cracked my base.
It's interesting how when you were going to the doctors and saying like there's something wrong, like I know there's something wrong, and they just kind of brush it off as saying you're stressed. That's it.
Oh,
When
yeah.
stress can be the root cause of stuff like this. It's interesting.
Well, absolutely. And I think, um, sure, physical trauma, as I said, will cause this, but we know that emotional stress has a physical impact on the body. And I believe, and I know, I think it's mainstream now, that the root of most illnesses can be traced back to emotional dis-ease within ourselves, right? So yeah, I'm a firm believer, during this journey of mine. I can't tell you how many doctors I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to list them all. And I had to be my own advocate. Unfortunately, I did not have that cheering section beside me, um, saying, no, she's not crazy, because some in my inner circle began to believe I was too, right? So they'd be like, you know, Joe, come on, like maybe you just need to relax. Maybe you just, and I'm thinking, great. Now it's not the external that doesn't believe. Now the internal doesn't believe. And I think honestly, I think as women, it puts an added layer for us, because we get deemed as hormonal. And you know, especially as I was aging, I am 53 today. I was bedridden at 44. And then you get a crazy menopausal lady, right?
Mm.
It's hard to break through all of that, but we must be our own advocate. We must.
Yeah, it's exhaust. Like I was my own advocate for very different reasons. But with my mental health journey, like you have to be your own advocate sometimes, and it like you probably know better than anyone. It's so exhausting.
Oh, it's another layer, Harry. It's like insult to injury,
Mm-hmm.
right? You feel like a bag of, you know, pardon me, dog shit to begin with, right? And then what little energy you have, what little um, what little fight you have left, you're fighting for the bare minimum, for people just to listen. Just listen to me. And it wasn't even a matter of understand and believe me. It was at this point, can you just listen?
Mm.
Because I couldn't even get doctors to do that at that point, or many of the people in my space because it had gone on for so long. Then you know what it becomes, Harry? It becomes, oh, Joanna and her headaches. Joanna and her headaches. Like, wow, you know?
Yeah, it just becomes a part of, oh, that's just Joe.
Right? Right?
Man. Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially when you're going through something like that where a third of your brain is dead. It's like I can't even fight for myself and now I have to advocate. It's like I'm just trying to not be bedridden.
Yeah, and you know what? It was like it was a third of my vestibular system, right? Not of
Mm.
my brain, but of my vestibular system, which was part of my brain. Um, and I can remember standing one day right before I was bedridden. I had moved downstairs to the main floor because I'm like, you know what? One day I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to be able to make those stairs. That's how bad it was. And I'd be walking and I felt like I was in a fun house, right? It was like wonky mirrors, the lighting. I didn't know if I was coming or going. So I was sleeping down there and I could not always walk to the bathroom. So sometimes I crawled, sometimes I used a bag. This is before I was bedridden completely. Sometimes I used a chair as a walker. And it was uh, it was like everything I tried to do, I kind of looked at it and went, how the hell am I going to do that? So as I'm walking with the chair to the bathroom and I can see there's dust and whatever on the floor. So I'm thinking I have to sweep that. And I'm holding the chair and I'm holding the broom and I'm thinking, how am I going to hold the broom, sweep with the broom, and move my body at the same time? That's what I'm saying. They're going, this is not normal. This is not anxiety. There is something not right here. So yeah, it's I'm just trying to get by. And Harry, no one wants anxiety and depression. No one wants to be bedridden. I'm not doing this for attention, for the love of God. I'm not doing it for attention. I had my son, I mean, when I was bedridden, he was just finishing grade 8. So I don't know, what are you then? 14, I think. I want to be with my kid. I want to be experiencing. I want to, I do not, the shame, okay? The shame with a bucket, no one wants that. But, you can't convince people and you just don't have the energy anymore. It is exhausting to open your eyes and think, I have to live another day when all I truly want to do is die.
Mm.
And after I was diagnosed, let me say something to that though. The truth is we don't want to die. We just don't want to live like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I was in the bed, so I went into the bed and couldn't move May 26th, 2012. I was diagnosed that July. I was rehabilitating, and the rehab was so excruciatingly painful. It was the most intense pain I've ever had in my life. My marriage was falling apart after 23 years. Basically, that dissolved while I was in the bed. I have a son who's looking at me going, "What now, mom? What's the plan? How do we do this?" I have a crew of incredible healthcare workers that are working with me with rehabilitation, ocular vestibular rehabilitation, chiropractics, osteopathy, you name it, I had it. They were amazing. I still am in touch with this crew and some of them still work with me. I was blessed. But everything in my life was going away. I lost my business. I lost my marriage. My grandmother, who is my dearest girl in the world, died while I was in the bed, couldn't say goodbye. My independence, my finances were, it was dust. I had credit card companies calling me, you name it. It was a disaster. And the wall that was beside my bed, I actually clawed down to the drywall screws. I clawed my body, my arms, my legs. I was sitting there bleeding all over. The wall was just, it was like it was like trying to get out of Alcatraz.
Mm.
And that's what I felt that my brain and my body were in. and you're desperately clawing to get out of this pain. And you're desperately trying to claw to hold on to something familiar, something reminiscent of the life that you had. And it was in that moment that I'm clawing and I'm bleeding and I'm not feeling it. I don't feel the pain of what I'm doing because the emotional pain is so intense, it's so visceral, it supersedes that. And I just kept thinking, I'm fighting to hold on, I'm fighting to hold on. I'm fighting to hold on to what? It's going away. And it was in that moment when I thought all I can really do is let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the blessing. It was in that moment that I decided to let go.
When you did decide to let go, like what did that feel like mentally? Was there like something that spoke to
Oof.
you, or?
You know what? So again, that was, maybe a year and a half to 2 years into this
Mm-hmm.
journey. And uh, I had watched the movie Patch Adams. Do you know the movie Patch Adams with Robin Williams?
I've heard of it.
So Patch Adams he's still alive. He's in his 70s now. He is a US medical doctor that chooses, there was a movie done about him by Robin Williams, but he chooses to heal through love, compassion, kindness, laughter therapy. And it's very non-conventional, unconventional, because there's no money that's transferred from patient to doctor. It's just this beautiful energy, this beautiful story of love. And in his book, in his movie, I'm sorry, in his story, he used a clown nose. That's his insignia, right?
Mm.
This clown. So I'm laying there one day thinking, wow, I'm going to be known as the woman whose husband left her with a bucket beside the bed. That's what I'm going to be known for. And I'm like, screw that noise. I'm not doing it. I had contemplated suicide. I um, had pills in my hand. And then I remembered my son and I thought, it's not going to end this way. This is not the way my story ends. This is not going to be my legacy. So I had the caregiver, I had 24-hour caregivers. She brings me my lunch and there's a Baby Bell cheese on it. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I got nothing here. I got nothing around me. I can barely move. I can't write. I can't hold a pen, nothing. And I'm thinking, okay, Baby Bell cheese. I can make a clown nose. I can do something. So I made this clown nose and I stuck it on my face and I instantly smiled. And I thought, wow, I changed something there, right? I smiled. The energy was different. And the caregiver came over. Oh, Miss Joanna, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, look at me. And then I made her smile and laugh. And I'm like, wow, I can control in every moment my reaction to things by choosing to smile. And I was so grateful for this insight. So I actually called Patch Adams' office in the States, thinking I was going to get an address that I could write a letter to. And I ended up speaking to him. And he said, Joanna, I'm going to give you a prescription. And I thought, giddy up, man. He's going to tell me how to get out of here. He's going to tell me how to figure this out. And he said, take charge of your response to it all. I thanked him. I got off the phone and I said, wow, right? More work, some
Mm.
cryptic prescription that I don't know what the hell to do with. So I put it on my inspiration wall that was in front of my bed. I had all kinds of sayings on there and it sat there for a good year. And all of a sudden it was in my clawing and my trying to escape that I had looked on the wall. I'm like, take charge of your response to it all. The clown knows. I can make a choice. I can change things in the moment. So I thought, I've been armored up for 40 some odd years. I've been fighting. I've been a warrior. I've been, with my spears and my shields up, and it's not working, Harry. I'm still in bed. I'm still with the bucket. I cannot walk, and I want to die. So I literally did, I said to a friend of mine, it's like you're on a NASCAR track, right? You're going left, left turn, left turn, left turn, left turn. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go right. I'm going to go right. And my right turn was to be vulnerable and to trust and to put down the armor and say, you know what? This is friggin' hard, but I can do this and I'm strong. And I believe that there is something I'm meant to learn from here. And I believe that there is something on the other side of this that is greater than this. And it was like dropping a dozen cinder blocks off of my body in that moment. And now when I say that, it was then work, and it still is work every day. You know what the mental game is, right?
Mm.
It's work every day. But that's the moment I chose to take control and to say, this is not my legacy. This is not where my story ends. And I am going to look at this as a blueprint that the universe has for me for greatness that's coming. And yeah, it's that it felt like freedom. Finally, it felt like freedom, because we're constantly, we're trying to hold on, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard of Abraham Hicks, but they talk about swimming upstream, right? You're resisting the natural flow of life. And I was exhausted because that's all I did, right? I was swimming upstream constantly, trying to hold on to that past, something reminiscent that I knew, even though I knew it was dysfunctional, Harry. I knew it was dysfunctional. I lived a dysfunctional life of fear and anxiety every day, but that's what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this stuff. But as soon as I could say, you know what, I'm going to trust, I'm going to let go of that, and I'm going to let the universe just carry me to where I'm meant to be and trust this process. Oh my God. Game changer.
That's
Absolute game changer.
it's scary though.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Putting that trust into stuff you don't know.
So, people say, what do you trust? What's this trust thing? So for me, trust is absolutely in myself, in my my ability to conquer and overcome absolutely anything. But it's also my trust in my higher power. So for me, it's the universe, or some God, Allah, Buddha, Snoopy, I don't know, who, whatever you believe in, right? For me, it's trusting that the universe has already figured out what I cannot wrap my head around, and not micromanaging it. Because people will say, oh, I'm a firm this, that, whatever religion. And they'll go to church and, all this wonderful stuff. That's great. But it's easy to say you believe when things are going right. When things are going wrong, or perceived wrong, I should say, do you still believe in that higher power and that it's working for your highest good, even though those struggles are before you? Because as I say in my talks that I do, I was gifted 5 words. I've mentioned them, and I mentioned them in my book, My Missing Piece: trust, acceptance, gratitude, commitment, and liberation. So when we talk about gratitude, I'm always telling people it's about reformulating your hurdle into a gateway, right? Because it doesn't matter what you're going through, Harry, there is a blessing there.
Mm.
Things are not happening to us, they're happening for us. We all know that saying, right? And you can sit there and go, oh God, another cliche. No, man, I'm telling you, I can sit here and honestly say, 4 years in a bed, and really it was 10 years by the time the pre-bed, the bed, and the constant rehabilitation after at this point, I would not change one single day, one single moment, one single person that crossed my path, good or bad, because all of that accumulative is what brought me to this incredible place within myself today. And I would not be here and I would not be JoJo Marie Shalacy as I am today without experiencing my yesterdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in the moment. It's hard to find the positive out or like the overall like what you're going through this for, and then after when you look back, you're like, glad I'm glad that happened. I'm
Yeah.
glad, or maybe maybe I'm not glad all of it happened, but I'm glad that some of it I learned something from this.
Yeah. Every time there's I don't know if it's always a lesson, but it brings us to where we're meant to be with the people that we're meant to be with, right? So, I had a lot of people fall away from my life. Like they were dropping like leaves in the fall. It was, when you're sick that long with an invisible illness, right? Vestibular, you don't have tubes, you don't have a shaved head, you know, um, you're not in a hospital. You look like hell, but you don't look like a patient, I guess. And people don't understand. Most people don't know what vestibular illness is. They don't know they have a vestibular system until it doesn't work. Um, and I had to start getting comfortable with uncomfortable. I had to start getting comfortable with people saying, tapping out, see ya, and trusting that that's okay. Not everyone's meant to walk the whole walk with you. And trusting that the right people would just continually come, and they have every single time.
Mm-hmm. Now, did that trust click immediately?
Nope. Did I answer too fast? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I I had to work a lot on trust. Uh, Days, weeks, months, on finding out what is it that I believe in. Like I said, it's easy to say you believe. Well, what the hell do you believe in? Convenience? I don't know. So, you know, um, I had been brought up Catholic, but hadn't been practicing for many years. Um, and I didn't really know what I believed in. And for me, through discovery, you have to remember I had time to do this. I had nothing but time.
Mm-hmm.
I had 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, months, years. And I realized that I believe in universal energy. I believe that everything's happening to us and for us. I believe in karma. I believe in what you give out is what you receive. I believe in energy. And I believe that if I believe that there's a higher power at work, then what I had to begin doing was considering not micromanaging. Who am I to be micromanaging the universe, right? I don't think you got this. I think I'll take care of this universe. It's like, really? Really? So I just kind of kept taking in the grandness of the universe and all the incredible things that were surrounding me, um, and saying, you know what, there is a higher power out there. Um, and I think I'm tired. And I think I'm going to try something new and I'm going to turn right off the NASCAR track. And I'm going to really work at trusting that the universe has figured this out already and I can just let it go. So when the thoughts would come in, like, how the hell am I going to send my son to university? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to walk again? How am I going to, I mean, the list would go on and on. I would stop myself. I would not beat myself up. I would stop myself and say, I remember that old way of thinking. That that's been with me a long time, and that's okay. But we're going right now. So I'm going to let that go like a cloud in the sky. I just let it go by and say, I'm trusting now. And I kind of look up and say, you do your thing, universe. I'm just going to be patient. But it's a daily discipline, Harry. It's a
Hmm.
daily discipline. For me now, after these years of doing it, so I started in 2013, 2014, we're in 2021 now, do the math, it is second nature for me to trust, accept, be grateful, and be committed. I don't think about it now so much because just as we use neuroplasticity for me to physically learn to walk again, I taught my brain to think a different way. We're breaking old synapses of old thought patterns. So we break them apart, that negativity, that fear, that doubt, and we're starting to replace them with positivity, with trust and acceptance and gratitude. And what that does is it actually physically creates new synapses in the brain, and that becomes your new path of least resistance. So when fear stimulus comes in, instead of it going to the path of least resistance of fear and doubt, that doesn't it's not connected anymore. Now my thoughts go to trust, acceptance, and gratitude, and it just instantly happens. So we've actually paved a new way of thinking, which in turn is self-generated inner peace. So it doesn't matter, Harry, what's happening around. All kinds of things can be happening around, people saying, and this person going, this person coming, this job, this illness, whatever is happening, it's okay, because you can center yourself and get to that self-generated inner peace. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances or people. It's incredibly empowering. But just like the rehab, right? If you go to the gym, and I always explain it like this: if you decide that you want to, bulk up, so you say, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym and bulk up, and I'm going to get some biceps. Well, if you go to the gym, I don't know, once every 2 weeks, you do 10, couple reps here, couple reps there. Okay, now you're in the forest and you're running, you're jogging, you're doing this thing, and there's a huge log in the way, and you can't get through unless you move the log. Well, if you haven't been doing your workout, how are you going to move the log? You're not going to be able to.
Hmm.
You are not going to be able to get past that obstacle. So it's the same thing when we're rewiring the brain and we're thinking differently. It's a daily discipline. This is something that you do every day. You invest the time and energy into it so that when that obstacle is then put before you, absolutely you can clear that obstacle because you've done the work and you now have a new synapses in the brain that brings you to that path of least resistance of peace.
Now, does your brain ever go to the other path time and
Yep.
time again? Yeah.
Yep. Because we're human. It's
Hmm.
natural, right? But it's like you're driving and you know the path that you're on, you know the path you want to be on, and it's straight and it's paved and it's beautiful, but somehow your car starts to veer onto this, onto the shoulder, and it's like, oh, that doesn't feel good, right? It's kind of bumpy, and you're not on the right path, and you go, okay, here we go. We're back on our path. It's never about perfection. I always say to people, they go, Jojo, how are you dealing with COVID? Right? You must be, zenned out and you're okay and everything's, cool. And hell no. Hell no. I'm human. I'm
Hmm.
human. I'm not a robot. I'm human, and I live perfectly imperfectly. And some days I'm pissed off. You feel it, and that's okay. I'm never about denying my feelings and putting them under the carpet, and because you're just going to trip on them, right? For me, it's always about being authentic. It's all about authenticity, being real, voicing my feelings, not being ashamed of them. This is really hard today. This is really hard. I wrote a book, okay? My blood and guts I put into this book. 53 years of my life. And I spent how long writing it? And I launched it during COVID. Right? So you sit there and go, really? Really? That's how I'm doing this? No book launch, no party, no. And you know what? Feel it. Get pissed off about that. You know what? But you don't stay there. You voice it, you feel it, you be authentic, and you go, yeah, you know what? That sucks. But I trust everything is happening in the divine time. So I'm going to put my ego aside. I'm going to let the universe take care of this, and I'm going to get back on track. And it happens very quickly, Harry. It's not like I sit there for a week pining about it. No, it comes in, I feel it, that day, yeah, I'm frustrated. Then I'm back on my horse and I'm doing what I need to do because it feels a lot better than working from ego.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Feels a lot better. It's a lot harder, but it definitely feels a lot better. I've had to catch myself since, going back and integrating into the 9 to 5. Like, I had a job during COVID, but this is different. Like, when I'm working at the summer camp, you're like, it's long hours, there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of guests at the Toronto Zoo. Like, it's packed. And I've had to catch myself so many times falling down that path that I used to go down, full of stress and anger and like just
Yeah.
overwhelming. Like, I hate what's going on right now. And it, like, thank God for, like, thank whoever for the last year or not even for the last year, for however long I've been on this mental health journey, for being able to get to a point where I catch it and I go, wait a minute, we're not doing that again, because I know how
Right.
terrible that feels.
Right.
Mm, man.
Good for you, man. That's what it's about. You still feel it, right?
Oh yeah.
Feel it and voice it. Otherwise I can't hold it. I I'm respectfully honest, right? If I'm feeling something, I got to tell you. I got
Mm-hmm.
to voice it. I have to let it out. And I move on. If it's frustration about life, about circumstance, I got to let it out. But then, like you said, you go, nah, no, I'm going to, that didn't feel good when I lived like that and thought that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot easier, but did not feel good.
You know what? I guess it was easier because when I was in the bed is when I started the different thinking
Mm-hmm.
process, right? And when those synapses were breaking, those negative ones, oh my God, the headaches I would get were insane. And I'd say to my rehab team, I'm like, why is this so bad? And they're like, because you're breaking these synapses. It is actually physically something that's happening. And I was so hardwired. I don't know if this is how you felt, but I was so hardwired for fear, anxiety, and stress. It was just like fear stimulus comes in, boom, I'm there, right? And it's I say the path of least resistance. It is paved, it is glassy, it is slippery, and I can just slide right in there effortlessly. But now I have to say, it's, I guess you were saying it's so much easier. Yeah, it's because years, for me, it was decades. Um, I've walked that path. And now yeah, it's a lot of work at first, but I think very quickly, when you're very disciplined, I think very quickly you can pave that new path and really experience something new and something positive and something peaceful with that same amount of um, expedited result.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I'm experiencing it now. So
Yeah, for
keep
sure.
doing what you're doing.
Exactly. Now, when you started this new way of thinking and breaking the old synapses and making new ones, when did you notice the change? Did you notice it mentally at first, or did you start to get like a physical change? Like, did you start feeling better?
Hmm. I've never had that question asked of me. Um, I think I think it was more a physical response. Um, all that negativity was breeding such negativity in my body.
Hmm.
Um, that, yeah, I found it was more of a lightness of being, I'd say, right? Fear, anxiety, stress, doubt, they're very heavy energies. And I'm very, very sensitive to energy, good and bad. So I'd say I felt it physically first. And um, emotionally took a while. I'd say it took quite a while, but definitely physically first.
Yeah. And did that lighter feeling physically, did that, because you were saying that rehab was incredibly difficult and it hurt. Did that lightness in your, or that new feeling physically, did that help with rehab at all? Did that make it slightly easier?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. It was still hell. I mean, anyone doing vestibular rehabilitation will tell you.
Mm.
Um, my vestibular specialist, rehab specialist, can I plug him? Because he's really, really good.
Of course.
So his name is June Na, and he's from Cornerstone Physiotherapy downtown. And he is renowned as being the best in Ontario. And I can remember him sitting next to my bed, and he said, "This is going to be grueling,
Mm.
and I need to know if you're in this or not." He said, "Because I'm in this 100%. I need you to be in this 100%." And I'm thinking, oh my God, what the hell am I getting myself into? But I had no choice. Um, and he said the worst thing for neurological rehabilitation is stress.
Yeah.
Obviously, because you want the brain to be calm. You know, if you've been stressed, anxiety ridden, depression, when the brain is under duress, you feel like a bag of shit,
Yep.
right? Nothing works. You have headaches, tension headaches and all kinds of stuff. Well, you take vestibular migraines, which is, they say, is one of the worst type of migraines to have. You have the physical pain that goes with that. You have your body in excruciating pain from not moving. I was like in a crypt, basically. And then you put all that stress. Oh, it just made everything a million times worse. So when I could, that's one of the impetus for me going right on the NASCAR track, because nothing was shifting. My brain wasn't changing. The divorce wasn't changing. I was with the lawyers up to my eyeballs. My financial situation wasn't changing. Everything was at a standstill. And it's like, okay, whatever I'm doing now is confirmed, ain't working. So we got to try something new. And that's when the shift, if you believe in energy, I do, that energy will shift everything.
Hmm.
Positive energy will help pave that road. Negative energy, you ever hang out with someone with negative energy for an hour?
Oh.
You want to curl up and die after that. You just, right? That says it right there. You want to go to bed, you have a headache, you're grumpy. It's like, oh my God, it's like tar. And that's what I say. Like, if I'm with someone, or if I happen to be in a situation where I'm with someone that their energy is bad, I'm like, holy Christ, I don't tell them, but it just feels like I have a bucket of tar on me. It's hard to move, it's hard to breathe, it's hard to think. I want to go to bed. I got to get away from that. And I have that this part of my word commitment is being committed to the energy I put out, because what I put out is what's going to come back, because the universal law is that, right? But I also have to be responsible for the energy I will allow into my space. And Harry, not everybody is worthy to be in my space.
Mm.
Not everybody is worthy to be in Harry's space, or Jane, or Bob, or whatever your name is. Your space is your sacred space. And when I use my 5 pillars of transformation that I talk about in the book, this is about building the foundation of inner peace. So you have to think of that energy, that sacred space, as your sacred land, right? Like, you're not going to build on garbage. So to me, and you know what? At first, people will be like, huh, look at her. with a little bit of attitude. It's not attitude. It's always operating respectfully with kindness and compassion. But it's also being very okay within yourself to say, I'm opting out or no,
Mm-hmm.
without having to give a long diatribe explanation as to why. This just isn't this isn't vibing with me.
Yeah.
I love you. It's all good. I respect you. It's just not vibing with me. So I'm going to pass.
Yeah. People don't take that very well.
No. And that's okay.
Yeah, I've had to have a couple hard conversations like that. Hey, man, I'm not gaining anything from this. I'm sorry. It's not you. Well, kind of, but like,
Kind of is you, but
it kind of is you. I'm not going to say that, but I can't.
right.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, and you know what? I don't know, we've been raised or conditioned to be polite, you know, take the shit and the pain and the crap and just be polite and smile, just keep taking it. Well, no, you don't have to do that. Unfortunately, I learned that in my 40s. I'm trying to teach my child that when he was a teenager and now in his early 20s to have that clear, healthy boundary. And it's okay to opt out and say no. And, when people get defensive about that, that's their ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I've kind of done a lot of work with ego and the role that it's played in my life and um, it's as if someone presents themselves to love you in a certain way. I don't know. Let's say your lover comes home and brings you, chocolates you don't like and flowers that you're allergic to, and I don't know. He's a little late or whatever. But, ego says, that's not enough. When you remove the ego and you just operate from love, it's always enough. It's always enough. So everything's about love, kindness, compassion, and clear, healthy boundaries and self love, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It, man, that boyfriend or the husband you were just talking about, that guy didn't get anything right. He's got that.
right? He tried, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, people ask me, what did I learn? I learned so much through the bed years, and I don't really want to get into everything I learned because that's the epilogue of the book, and it's kind of like the crescendo of it. But in my marriage, and I'm just going to touch on this, it's always, you always play a role. Playing a victim does not behoove any of us. And when I'm talking about this because we talk about universe and universal energy, and we create our experiences in life. So we're an acting role, an acting part. So I never look at my marriage or the bed years through the eyes of a victim. you know it's just an experience in my life, and it was part of my, I despise the word journey, but I've yet to come up with another word. But this journey that I was on to get where I am now. And yeah, I don't look at anything as being a victim. I was a participant in my life, and I learned along the way. And yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
No, that's a great way to look at it because I started doing the same thing. There were points in life where I would look back and be like just feeling sorry for myself because someone did me wrong, or there was a time in life where I got screwed over, or whatever it was, like, and just looking at it through the lens of the victim, like, oh, these people did me wrong and I should feel bad about it because I'm the victim in this scenario. Like, it's so much better to look at it through the lens that you're talking about, because then you don't, like, for me anyway, like people would start talking about things that happened in like in the past or whatever. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. Stop it. Like let's
Yeah.
just ignore that. And then it ended up being my whole past was this huge dark cloud that I just never addressed. And then that builds up. And then you eventually look back and you're like, oh, and then it all just comes back to bite you.
And it
Whereas when
rained.
it rains, exactly.
It
That's great.
rained.
Oh man, I had that analogy right there and I didn't
Come on,
get it.
man. The door was open.
I was so close. You nailed it right in the head.
Oh, it's yours.
I'll take it. I'll take all the credit.
There you go.
but but yeah, it starts to rain. But then when you look at it, like, you know what? Like it's just a part of my quote unquote, like you said, journey. I also don't
Yeah,
like. Yes, it's a journey, but there's got to be a different word for that. We'll figure it out. But
we'll figure it out.
yeah, exactly. But when you look at it through that different lens, it's that dark cloud's not there anymore.
Yeah. And isn't it more empowering
Way more.
to live this way than as a victim? No way, man. I'm not. To me, it's always about self empowerment. And, you know, if I say he did this to me or she did that to me or he laughed, and no, 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 no. No, to me, that disempowers me. And, you know, while we're on this topic here, let's talk about forgiveness.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about that because, if we're talking about mental wellness and healing and empowerment, to me, there's nothing more empowering than the power of forgiveness. Because forgiveness, for me, when I talk about forgiving the people or person that I believed had perceived done something against me, um, really it's not so much because people would say, how can you forgive that person? How can you forgive them for what they did? And I'd say, because I don't want to hold that. That's too heavy a burden to bear for me. That's a heavy load, Harry. And you know what? I'm about living light and free and at peace and holding grudges and feeling that resentment, that anger and that nastiness. That is going to fuel dis-ease within me and my body, both physically and mentally. And screw that noise. I'm not doing it. So forgiveness is more about the gift you give yourself than it is to that person. To me, it was about, I forgive you because that is too heavy a burden for me to bear. And I release your energy. Sounds very, but it really is. I'm releasing that energy from within me and my space. Because you know what? Whatever perceived wrongdoing you did, that's between you and the universe and karma. I
Hmm.
don't have to micromanage that. The universe and karma will take care of that beautifully. I'm just going to live my life and let go. And I'll tell you, that was next level. For me, when I could do that, next level.
Hmm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And when, let's say, karma doesn't hit, you're gaining nothing from caring about that.
Yeah, you're gaining nothing about caring for it and investing your time, effort, and energy in it. But trust me, karma always gets it. Right? Ego says it has to be what I see in my lifetime, but realistically, karma knows what it's doing. It doesn't miss anything,
Man. Yeah, no, it doesn't. I've seen it
right?
firsthand. I'm like,
Right?
yeah, I felt the
Right?
wrath of karma.
And I'll say we all have, right?
Hmm.
Um, but to me, people keep saying to me, I refused to put nasty energy to the perceived enemies in the bed years. And I would pray for them all the time. Um, and people are like, why the hell would you pray for people like that? Why wouldn't I? Because if it's a boomerang, right? Whatever I put out is what I'm going to get back. So the more goodness I'm putting out to the world, I'm not going to say, I pray for everybody to be healthy and happy and have wonderful things happen to them, except, and then go through a list and say, JoJo's been watching you, right? Take your name off the list. No, who the hell am I? I'm not God. I'm not the universe. Who am I to say who's deserving and not? I just put goodness out to everybody because I want to feel that love and goodness come back. So I can't love conditionally, right? When you love, right? And if you've done something perceived against me or wrongdoing, yeah, I'm gonna love you and let you go, but I'm gonna do it lovingly because I don't want that bad energy coming back at me. And the whole time I was in the bed, just everything kept fitting into place. The right people were coming, circumstances were coming into place when I had changed the energy and the karma, everything. And people are like, how are you doing this from the bed? How are you manifesting like this? I said, I don't know. I just keep putting love out and it keeps coming back to me. And Harry, it works every time. You want love? Put love out there. Put love out there unconditionally. Don't put conditions on things. Just put the love out. And trust me, it'll come back every time, exponentially.
Mm. Yeah. I love love. So I try to put it out.
It sounds very, Woodstock, right? It
Yeah,
really does.
right.
Right? But, they had something going on, those hippies. They
Hey,
really did.
I mean, yeah, you hear the cliches and you hear the Woodstock kind of cliche, but like
Yeah.
they're true. There's a reason they're there.
Right? And for me, honestly, I've lived them. I've had enough time to experiment.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, when you live in love, um, my very, very dear friend Gavin Ashley, we'd be walking down the street and he always laughs because I say good morning to everybody. Everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care how miserable you look. I am going to look you in the eye and I am going to say good morning. Have a super day. Right. And we do like a little experiment. And I'll say, you'll never get it out of this one. Want to make a bet? And they'll look as miserable as albeit. And at first they kind of look at you like, what the? And then they give a smile and they're like, oh man, you too. Thanks for that. And you change people's moments, man. You change people's moments. We have to remember, we started talking this conversation. We started talking about COVID. Let's go full circle and bring it back. People are broken.
Hmm.
People are hurting. People are hanging by one blue vein. There's no benefit to anybody to be cruel and lack compassion with people. Just show some love, man. Show some patience. Yeah, there's jackasses on the road, speeding and doing this. I don't know. Are they going to sick kids because their kid is dying? Did they just bury their mother? Did they just find out that their spouse was cheating? You don't know. You don't know people's circumstances. And I'm not here to judge because that takes up too much of my energy. I'm just going to send you some good vibes and send you love, and it just feels better.
Yeah.
Feels better.
Yeah, for sure. I did this thing when was it? It was a couple months ago, but basically I got like a care package of clothes from UR Collective. They're this mental health initiative company from BC. And one of the shirts says like ask me how I feel on it, like in big letters. And I wore it downtown and I was walking out with my friends and like every 10-15 minutes someone would run from like the other side of the field, like sprint over, and I forgot like
I love it.
I forgot I was wearing the shirt, so I was creeped out. I was like, what is this guy doing? And he's like, how do you feel, man? And I'm like, are you talking to me? And he's like, yeah, your shirt. I'm like, oh, I feel great, man. How are you? And he's like, great, man. I have a great day. And then he would leave, or she would
How
leave,
cool is that?
or like a
How
group of
cool is
people. It was so nice. And it took
right?
4 seconds for each person. It was a 4 second interaction. No effort was given. Well, I mean, other than sprinting across the field, but
Yeah.
it's so simple.
But how great is that? Now imagine if we didn't have to have a shirt on for someone to ask us how we feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? I always throw people off that are on like the telephone banking. Let's say when I do my telephone banking or when I call Enercare to book my furnace cleaning, and they say, thank you for calling Enercare. How can I help you today? My name is Brian. Hey, Brian, how's it going today? You having a good day? And they're like, yeah, I'm okay. You okay? I'm great, Brian. I just wanted to see how your day was going. I said, I hope you're having a good one. And it throws them off at first, but in the end, they appreciate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They matter. We're human beings. I think it would behoove us to start treating each other more humanly, right? We're not inanimate objects that don't feel. You got to remember every time you scowl at someone, man, you don't know what kind of mental state they're in.
No.
That could be the only interaction that person has that day. You really want to make it shit? I have another friend of mine that I would go to No Frills with him, and he goes, "Oh man, going to No Frills with you, JoJo, is brutal." I'm like, "What? Why would you say that?" He goes, "Because it takes forever." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." He goes, "Yeah, because you got to help every little old lady put her fruit in the bag, and you have to talk to little old man that can't decide this spice from that spice, and you're." I said, "Yeah, that's important to me. I'm not going to walk past people that need help or that look lonely, that maybe they have no one to talk to at home. If I can make someone smile, to me, that's what it's all about, right? That
Mm-hmm.
just brings joy to me. So I don't bring him to No Frills anymore. I do my own thing. That's who I am. That's what I love to do.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much. And especially like I say this all the time on this freaking show, but like in a time like now where it seems like everything's falling apart for most people, like you don't understand how strong of an impact that little interaction has. Like it takes you no effort. Like
Absolutely.
you say hi, how's your day going? How hard was that? And then for
And what did
them,
it cost?
yeah, it didn't cost you a penny. And then for them, the whole day is just brighter. Like, wow, someone actually cared. That's cool.
Absolutely. When you're in such a dark place, I'll tell you, I'll tell you. When I was in the bed, I talk about this briefly in my book. I was so lonely. It was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A lot of people fell away. My son was at school, and you just lay there and you think, I need to speak to a human. I need something. I had no TV, no computer, no radio because the auditory nerve couldn't handle it. So 2 3 years, I had nothing. I would just lay there for hours and hours and hours. And finally, I'm like, forget this. Patch Adams talks about in the movie, call random people up and talk. So I thought, oh, I don't know. Sure, I'm going to try. So I had written down, over 100 little puns and riddles, right? I just made them up in my head. I'd be laying there and I'd get the caregiver to write them down. So I'd get the phone and I'd just dial random numbers. And I'd say, oh, is Bill there? No, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. Do you want to hear a joke? And 9 times out of 10, they'd say, okay. And I'd tell them one of my corny jokes and they'd laugh and we'd maybe go back and forth for a minute or two. And they'd always say thank you. And it made their day and it made them smile. And I had someone to talk to.
Mm, yeah, I, my instance isn't that comparable, but at the same time, it's kind of where I experienced not talking to anybody. There was like 3 months when I was in university where I stayed in Guelph after the school year was done, and I
Mhm.
worked at this factory, and I was like a maid at this factory, and it was the worst job I've ever had because I worked from like 3 p.m. to midnight each day, and no one was in that factory, and I would just clean it by myself. And from whenever I woke up, like 8 a.m. to the 3 p.m. time, my other housemates were gone. They were either training or they were at school or they were at work because those are regular work hours. So I
Yeah.
didn't talk to anybody for 3 months straight. I didn't see my boss like at all after that first time. So I didn't talk to a single person. And I remember there was one point where I went to a Buffalo Wild Wing like 2.5 months in because I was like, man, this is shit. Like I need to I need to treat myself to some wings. Like,
Yeah.
and I went in there and the girl like doing tables, she was like, okay, for how many people? I was like, one. She's like, are you are you serious? I'm like, yep. So she brought me to the bar and it was just me at the bar and the bartender took time out of his day to talk to me.
Nice.
Like, how's your day going, man? How's summer so far? And I was like, damn, that was really nice.
Right.
Ugh. And it took him
Well,
nothing. There was no one at the bar.
this is it. When we talk mental wellness and mental illness, there's so many people that are hurting and broken and terrified, but there's so much shame to say, I'm broken, I'm scared, I'm terrified, and they hold it, right? And to come out and say, I'm really depressed, I'm really down, and people aren't doing it. And they're doing it more now, I guess, but there's still the stigma. We know it's still there to a certain degree. And I think it really is about living with compassion and realizing that we all have the power, just like I had the power in that bed to change my moment and put that clown nose on and change the energy. We all have the opportunity in each moment to change people's reality in that moment. And to me, I can't understand why someone would choose not to. I realize everyone has their own journey to walk, and they're at a different stage of personal development. I get that. But for the vast majority that can, I think we should be. Um, I think the world can be pretty cruel, um, and I think it's time to embrace a new way of being. And we're taught to armor up, and I talk about this in the book. You armor up, suit up, you know, and be on guard all the time. That's friggin' exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Just open up and love. Just open up and love. Be kind. That energy will fuel you.
Yeah, completely agree. I think the last question I had for you, kind of where I wanted to end this thing on, was I was reading some of your blog posts, and I think one of my favorites is the one "Feel It All."
Mm.
And like I've got a little excerpt of it here that I'll just read for the audience if you don't mind. Excuse my reading, but
No, go ahead, because I don't have it to read.
okay,
So
yeah. So it goes. You say like sometimes life can be completely overwhelming. We can feel the weight of the world coming down on us, and our minds quickly begin to swim in the deep end of fear and doubt. We doubt if we can manage one more thing, if we can make it through, if it will ever get better. Real or imagined obstacles seem to be around every corner, and stress is coming at us from all directions. The mind chatter is relentless, and it feels like there's no way to quiet the beast. You are not alone. So, for people listening who, like, let's face it, most of us are going through it right now. Like, it's inevitable with all these stressors, and who knows what people are going through. How do listeners, in your opinion, begin to approach the beast that they're experiencing?
I think there's a few steps, Harry, but I would say the first step is to voice it. I think we're taught to swallow it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can do this. I can't show that shit's falling apart here, and I can't show that I'm falling apart. I think the first part is being authentic and really sharing openly and honestly, first with yourself and then with a safe circle. Um, and then I think really for me, and it's what I kind of, my missing piece is not a self-help book. Don't get me wrong. My missing piece is a memoir meant to empower, motivate, and inspire people to not give up. But when I speak about the five pillars, I think, the first step is being able to start self-generating your own inner peace. And I think we do that when we're brave enough to let go of fear and go right and start embracing trust. I think that's the real. I mean, I say trust is the anchor word because without trust, nothing else holds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's trusting in a higher power, trusting in yourself, letting go of the micromanaging, and really trusting that everything is happening for you and not to you. I think that's a great first step. But in terms of, feel it all, absolutely. Don't deny, don't swallow, don't put it under the rug. Bring it out, let it shine. Don't be, don't look at your struggle, your, the thing that you feel brings you down, whether it's your depression, your anxiety, your fear, your, whatever it is. Bring it out and let the light shine on it. Because once you do that, it's like the scary monster under the bed, right? Once you put the flashlight under there, you realize there's nothing under there, right? When we shine the light on whatever our obstacle is, it automatically starts to diminish. And yeah, it's incredibly empowering when we can do that.
Amazing. Yeah, of course. Where, Jojo, where can my listeners find you?
Well, I sometimes do virtual authors nights. They can go to my website, simply jojomarie.com, can to order my book, to see my blog, to see any upcoming virtual authors nights I'm doing. I also do a monthly writing, wellness, mental wellness writing in Condo Nest, Adamo Nest magazine. I'm actually just starting working with someone collaborating on a workshop that is all about letting love into your life. So if they want to check out my website regularly, we'll be posting there when they can join us. But yeah, to order my book or to find more about my work, simply jojomarie.com.
Amazing. I will put that link down below. Jojo, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. You're awesome. Thank you so much. We'll do this again, maybe.
Hopefully in person.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
And to all my listeners, I will see you guys next time.